Okay, so now we're here at this part of the contract that discusses or shows remedies for buyer's breach of contract, paragraph 21. And this is page 8 of 10 of the purchase agreement. This page, it discusses remedies in case the buyer cannot perform the terms of the contract or timelines of the contract, and or there's major issues that cannot be rectified by both parties. Now, this one, if you have the buyer initial this lines here, means that the buyer is choosing to do an arbitration of disputes and mediation, um, instead of a litigation, which can be a very costly route to settle disputes. But anyways, I'm not supposed to give any legal advice. It's all in the contract anyways. All the verbiage are all here to explain to the buyers what his or her options are. Now, most of the time, in California, they recommend that the buyers choose arbitration over litigation because of the costs and time involved in settling disputes with the sellers. So if they choose to do that, they have to initial all three lines, and so seller will have to do the same thing too at their end eventually if once they ratify this contract. So moving forward, we are on page 9, and once again, you can see there's a lot of explanations, descriptions, explanations of terminologies and definitions that the buyer can read over to educate themselves regarding all this terminology. And down here, paragraph 31 is the expiration of offer. This contract is defaulted to 5 p.m. on the third day after the offer is signed by the buyer. So, which means that once the other parties receive this contract form, they have 3 days to decide whether they want to counter your buyer or they want to ratify or accept this contract. So, by default, it's defaulted to 5 p.m. of the third day. However, if your buyer wants to know the answer right away, you can always plug in a number here, a time frame or timeline. And let's say for this purpose of training, the buyer wants a 24-hour turnaround to find out if his offer was accepted or not. So I changed it on behalf of my buyer's request. And of course, you have to put the dates and the buyer's name. And the last one over here is the last page of this contract, of the actual contract offer. And then you just plug in information here manually. Okay, and so forth. Now here is the escrow holder acknowledgement. This is the portion where upon ratification of this contract, the escrow would acknowledge this receipt of the contract. And of course, this is for the listing broker, whether it's presented and rejected. This is filled out by the listing broker. And last of all, the buyer's inspection advisory. Now, these are all verbiage and explanations to the buyer, but you as their agent, in order to protect their best interest, you would like to recommend your buyers to do an inspection, and this explains what's involved. So just have the buyer sign this, and you're done.